Yeah.
Right, I'll just start off. Derek McGrath, welcome to OurGame.
Thanks, yeah.
First off, Ballygunner against Borris-Ileigh in this Munster final. You'd know these Ballygunner players very well. Had an awful lot of them with Waterford. Do you think it's their time now to... I mean, they've won Munster last year. Do you think they're ready to kick on?
Yeah, hard not to see it, I suppose. Difficulty for them now is on the back of 6 county titles that the expectation is almost within Waterford and outside of Waterford that they need to be getting an All-Ireland, I suppose, and it's just marrying that expectation with performing, you know. I think then the cards as well, you know, you'd be looking across, if they were looking rather kind of selfishly, you'd probably say in the Parish League where they're, you know, where they're arch enemy in Munster over the last number of years, and now it's fallen for them that, you know, there's kind of a team that have come from nowhere, perhaps if you like, in terms of Borris-Ileigh, so it's hard to marry against that. I don't think they're a complacent bunch, because I know them all, 14 of the 15 that went through the school over the years, and they're great lads, so I don't think they'd be complacent, but sometimes that can permeate its way to the group, you know.
Yeah, and what sort of characters are they? Like, I presume they're a very ambitious bunch.
Yeah, really solid now, first and foremost. Yeah. Good lads, you know, really, really good lads. Ambitious, yeah, really, really ambitious. And I think what's often trotted out in Waterford is, Ballygunner, huge numbers, you know, huge numbers, and so how could you compete with them because they have huge numbers? But I think that it guises the fact they have real quality and real good standards out there, you know. I think it's the lazy answer to say that they've huge numbers out there, you know, but they've really well run club and ambitious fellas, good crack as well, you know. At the heart of all their team is you know, that perfect mix between experience and youth, and this year I think they've had to go be in a situation where, like, Wayne Hutchinson hasn't played with him, Shane Walsh hasn't played with him, Brian O'Sullivan hasn't played with him, Harley Barnes has been out injured, so they've had to throw in, you know, the likes of Paddy Levy, you know, the likes of Conor Sheen, and you know, they haven't been found wanting, those boys.
And you know, when you say like that, this whole talk about being a huge club probably does distract from the work that does go on there, but they are there's a combination of the same old families, will say, that you'd often see in clubs like, you know, the Mahanys and Sullivans and so on, but it is also an area whereby the catchment area has kind of exploded, hasn't it? Yeah,
look, it's a fashionable area probably of Waterford, in terms of, you know, it's I won't say it's affluent area, but certainly an area where you know, there's lots to do, I suppose. It's, you know, it's an appealing area to live in Waterford City, and it's their facilities are second to none, you know. Unfortunately, they lost a key member of their great friend of Philip Manny and all the Mannys, Gary Murphy, a number of years ago in a tragic accident, and they have a huge indoor centre there named after Gary Murphy, kind of indoor memorial centre, if you like, and facilities second to none, and huge gym, 2 great playing pitches, and you know, a huge influence of Ballygunner National School on their whole being there for years. So, you know, look, they've seemed to have everything right, and what they have as well, they have a very kind of level-headed approach as well to kind of progress. You know, I think they're always kind of just trying to evolve, you know.
And like, if you were to look at what they've done in the past couple of years, and like 6 titles in a row is some going, no matter what your county is. You're from the Deise club. Your club, with Bull Phelan managing, would have been trying to plot their downfall this year, and I suppose you would have seen it up close, having been involved in the past. How big a task is it within Waterford to even take them down?
Well, I think it's very difficult, because all the time, sometimes you have a tendency to say, they couldn't be as hungry this year, you know.
Yeah.
Couldn't be as hungry this year, you know. And I think
that's
sometimes,
hope
you're living in hope as opposed to kind of, you know. So I think, look, we beat them in the 2010 final. You know, I remember we were out having a few pints the day after, and they had beaten us by 25 or 26 points in the preliminary section that year, and we got back and we kind of...
That was championship? In
the championship that year, we actually, you know, and we beat them in the final then in 210 that year, and we're having a few pints the day after, and we were kind of contemplating where it had kind of put them, you know, where would they recover after that. And I was kind of, you know, I won't say I was going against the grain, but I was saying, Jesus, I think they'll be in the next 20 county semi-finals, you know. I know that sounds a bit far-fetched or a bit hyperbolic, but there's just, I see the standard of young fella that's coming into school, you know, the young fellas, and how they kind of apply themselves in school. So in terms of, you know, how they kind of recreate the hunger year after year, I think this year there's been a freshness, like, you know, there's been a freshness based on the impetus that a couple of new players have given them coming off the minor, if you like. And I think the key drivers there, i.e. Philip Manny, Shane Sullivan, Barry Cock and Pádraig Manny, they're just relentless in their pursuit of, you know, trying to get over it. And I'd say they're probably using the whole idea that they can't recreate the hunger, you know, amongst themselves, I'd imagine. And I'd say their standards are so high that, you know, they've obviously had the input then of Deise Hutchinson coming back from Brighton, and that's given them a kind of a freshness as well. So I'd say they've been well able to use the fact that, And I think they've been able to time it with respect to other clubs involved in Waterford. You know, I saw him earlier in the year this year against Tallow, for instance, and I said to myself, Jesus, there might be a chink of light for us here, you know. But come to the quarter-final stage, they seem to be able to. I saw them in the quarter-final against Passage, and they were relentless, and they seem to have got better since.
And because Waterford had a disappointing season, it's probably, number one, they get a longer break before having to go back full belt with Ballygunner. But also, knowing that your club is capable of big things, that's a huge boost too, isn't it?
Yeah, look, you know, and you never get tired of winning, do you? I know it's a bit kind of cliched, but an old adage, but, you know, 5, 6, you know, where's it going to stop? But it's and that shouldn't in any way kind of quench what we're trying to do in Deise County. You know, we got off to a horrendous start against Ballygunner in the final, 1-4 to a point down, but then we got it to 2 points with 15 minutes to go, so it's still about persevering if you're on the outside of it, if you like. But it's look, it's you don't see it ending too soon, as I said, in terms of the dominance. Like, even if we were in a situation we were talking now where one of the other teams were in a Munster club final, I still say you'd probably be looking at Ballygunner as being favourites for the championship next year. So I don't see him, you know, going away if they're beaten. You know, I don't think the roller coaster is going to end anytime soon. You know. So
then to jump into what we'll possibly see in the Munster final at Páirc Uí Rinn, Borris-Ileigh, the opposition. Borris-Ileigh are a team probably riding a wave of emotion, one thing, especially what's happening in the parish. They're sort of probably learning more about themselves as they go along. You know, young players like JD Devaney, Kevin Maher in the other corner, Conor Kenny free scoring in the final. Sorry, not in the final, but against Glen Rovers and the county semi-final. Against a team like Ballygunner, who seem really, really assured in what they're doing. Like Philip Mahoney sits in front of the full back line. The wing forwards seem to come deep. One of the inside men comes out, and they work the ball lovely in front of Hogan and Deise Hutchinson inside. And you could see, like, they're very assured in what they're doing in the way that they punished Patrick Swell when Patrick Swell left a mountain of scores behind him. So as a Borris-Ileigh man, I'd be afraid Borris-Ileigh as a team first time here, that they might leave a few scores behind them, need everything to go right, whereas Ballygunner are probably just a bit more of an assured group. Yeah,
you've summed it up brilliantly there. I think and the only thing I will say is that just even kind of parallel our own experience in the Munster club in 08 and 010 with little or no expectation, you know, they can bring a certain freedom, and that talk of bonus territory in the parish of Borris-Ileigh, and yet you marry that with, you know, your own Paddy Stapleton, Brendan Maher, Dan McCormick, Devaney, Conor Kenny, Dan McCormick. You're kind of saying to yourself, geez, hang on now. So you can use it almost as a kind of a guise towards where you really want to go, you know. And I think they're a very ambitious group as well, you know, with Maher leading them there. And do you know, you're right, that's the feeling, and that's the feeling overriding your kind of your gut even going into it. You know that Ballygunner are here before, you know, how many Munster final is it in the last 4 years, you know, and the tendency they're looking ahead, but knowing the group, I don't think they will look ahead, you know. And then there's also the template of how they play, you know, keep possession, lovely to watch. As I said, Philip sitting on the edge of the D, allowing everyone else to kind of mark almost, and Philip's man becoming almost, you know, free almost, you know, to the point where midfielders, extra 10, 11 and 12 are essentially midfielders with 8 and 9, and one of the full forward line, Tim O'Sullivan, normally will come out at 45-50 yards. And I suppose there's a conundrum then for Brendan Maher with Pádraig, man, given the fact that Pádraig plays anywhere bar centre forward, so he'll be dictating. So if Brendan goes, you know, and I've watched Johnny Kelly teams over the years, and I watched the final between Borris-Ileigh and Thurles a number of years ago, where Brendan was almost scampering back to the edge of the D, midfielder would pick up 11, and will they change it up now? That's the interesting thing for me. Will Brendan go toe to toe with Pádraig over the hour, and then will they put their trust in Dan McCormick to sit the edge of the D, or will they change? You know, they're the interesting things for me ahead of the weekend.
Yeah,
really,
it's tantalising, because like I'd say the temptation for Deise County in the county final was to say to maybe Kevin Moore, who I believe was centre back, well, do you know what, Pádraig Mahoney is going to drop back. You're a serious athlete yourself, Kevin Moore, and even if you're 32 or whatever, he's still got a great engine. Do you know what, go with him, and you drive at Ballygunner in their own half of the field and punish Ballygunner for how they set up. So could Brendan Maher do the same? And if I'm Borris-Ileigh man, I'm like, I don't want him not protecting the D, but I do like the idea of him attacking Ballygunner. Yeah,
which is something that we would have even talked about over the years with Austin. Sometimes if you play him at 6 and your 11 goes, leave him go. Like, I remember the first night we actually played Austin at 5 against Limerick in the first round of the league in 15. Keane Lynch was picked at 12, and we knew Keane Lynch, and we said, "Roy Austin, you go," and he picked a couple of points. So I'd say that will definitely be part of the discussion. The only thing I'd say is that I just remember even 5 minutes into the second half of the county final that Jack Fagan had played at centre forward on Philip Manny, and he caught a great ball over Philip, got a point off his left hand side, and we looked like we were coming. The next minute I just saw David Franks come in off the line. Ballygunner brought an extra man out into the middle of the field. Barry Coughlin went from wing back in to pick up Jack Fagan, man marker, and Philip went as a seventh, an out and out seventh, just even for 5 minutes. And then it was almost like a switch where they started working the ball. They only had two inside then, and they were lining up with kind of an actual marking kind of centre back, if you like, marking Jack Fagan for a few minutes. So they're very adaptable to and flexible to, and they're not afraid to change, I think. And I think that's the key thing. But I accept your point, and I think that's what actually might happen. I think Brendan will perhaps go with Pádraig, but Pádraig, knowing that, will even go deeper then, and will try and keep him out of the play and hope to open it up for Deise and Peter Hogan inside, I'd imagine, you know.
But then, of course, if Pádraig is going into his own half and doing that, one of the things that makes Ballygunner so good is his use of the ball and the fact that he can score from anywhere once it's in his hand. So like it is one of those things the whole time. Peter to play Paul. And
I'd say the thing from Ballygunner's point of view, the plus there is that the last day Mikey Manny came up with 4 from play. Do you know, Kevin Manny's coming off the bench now making an impact. Peter Hogue, they've had a tendency where fellas have been able to kind of prop up, you know, and take the pressure off Pádraig to a certain extent.
Because Deise Hutchinson has been a huge boost this year. So the way I see it, Ballygunner played with both Hogan and Hutchinson either side of the 14. Lovely ball hit cross field to avoid any sweeper or sitting centre back, and they try and feed them. They take you on the outside and knock it over. Is that kind of accurate enough? Yeah,
it is. And I think I even watched back the Patrick's Well game there. What they do as well is they rotate the one of the three that goes out the field. So sometimes Tim O'Sullivan goes out the field and it'll be Peter and Deise, and sometimes Peter Hogan, who's very effective actually out the field. If you watch the Munster club final last year, he played as a kind of a deep wing forward. He's able to do that kind of up and down, and he can cut you as well with pace. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Tim and Deise and Peter travelling out the field on Sunday just for a bit of fear. But that's exactly what, watching the Patrick's Well game, there's times where it was hit in and Diarmuid Burns and Mikey O'Brien were back with Deise. So there was times it was Limerick like where you had a situation where Deise and Peter were against 4. And like anything else, when it works out and Deise and Peter get the score, but all it takes is one miss hit to a Diarmuid Burns and he pops you for a point, or to a Brendan Maher. So, but they do have absolute faith in that. I was just reading a comment that someone made at half time. They felt they were going away from their game ahead of the start of the second half, just near the end of the first half, so they trust their ability to give the ball. And don't be surprised to see, even though it's worked up to the Deise operating out the field at wing forward or centre forward, if needed, you know what I mean, at different stages of the game, if needed, because he can play. We're lucky enough to was involved in the Dean Ryan team in whatever year it was before he travelled to Brighton, and he's got great poise, and he's got great kind of cleverness as a player, you know, and we're seeing the scores now, we're seeing the fluency, but he's got great ability in terms of space and that, you know. He's a proper player now, you know.
I'd say you'd love to have had him with Waterford.
Yeah, and again he would have suited that whole idea of having one inside or two inside, because the movement he makes is crucial, you know. The 15 and 16 when we were using Colin Dunford as a third midfielder, almost kind of a similar kind of shape to Ballygunner now, and allowing your centre back to sit, he makes the runs perfectly. And Ballygunner, I think, are getting it right in terms of they don't slow their play down as they're trying to pick the perfect pass. I think that's the key thing, you know.
Do you think there's anything to be said for Ballygunner or covering up the fact that maybe they don't have a huge amount of scorers in the forward line? They can score a lot, but there's maybe 3 guys that you get regular big scores from, maybe Peter Hogan, Deise Hutchinson, Pádraig Mahoney. I don't want to do anyone else a disservice because they're all good players, but the way they set up is a product of the fact that maybe they don't have 6 free scoring forwards. Who does, of course, but you know, it's that point.
Yeah, but I think it's fair. But what they have is they've balance. I think Barry Sullivan gives you a huge amount of work ethic. He's different as wing forward. He's big, he's strong, he's mobile, and I don't mean he knows his limitations. But if there's a 35 dribbler to be given into Deise Hutchinson, he'll do that. If there's a point to be taken, he'll take the point. But he'll realise that perhaps it's getting a hook or block. I saw there was a massive cheer from the Ballygunner faithful. He kind of hooked Diarmuid Burns at one stage. So I think they have that Hegarty, Morrissey kind of role to perfection, where they know it's a double job. You know, your job is against the opposing. If you're number 10 and you're Barry Sullivan, your job is against the 12 on the Borris-Ileigh side. Your job, you know, is as much get a hook and block on him, but also get up the field to support your forward line. So I think it's but I think there's a dynamic to that forward line that perhaps is the key to their forward line, in terms of work ethic and scores. I think there's great balance,
Do you like, as in the way they set up and the way they play? You'd have watched them loads over the year. How similar or different is it to the way you would like to set up a team?
Probably nearly, if I'm honest, like in 15 and 16 with Waterford, it's probably nearly exactly the same. We used to call it a shape called Offaly, where, as I said, the corner forward brings his man out 40 yards. Pádraig has a complete free roll. The situation is if the man goes with Pádraig from 11, and he's essentially our 10, 11 and 12 and 8 and 9 are part of a pack. They're midfielders. So their job is to get up and down the field. And the key job is Tim O'Sullivan's job, which is if he's 15 and he's brought the corner back out, but the ball is in the air and Brendan Maher is sitting under, or a wing back for young McCormack is sitting under for Borris-Ileigh, his job is to get to him. He's just not saying to himself, it's nothing to do with me. You know what I mean? So that will give the cavalry a chance to get back up the field. But it allows Philip, and I think key has been the relocation of Shane O'Sullivan and Barry to wing back. They've great flexibility in their back line. So there's times when, and Philip has that key thing, and I watched him against Na Piarsaigh last year. He left Shane Dowling off, right? So Shane Dowling goes 100 yards. But when Shane Dowling comes in 50 yards, he picks him to the point where he's able to go with him. Shane Dowling hadn't to run on him, you know what I mean? And key thing, and I think this is where Ballygunner are more in tune this year than last year with regards to the big talking point for Ballygunner last year ahead of the semi-final of the All-Ireland against Ballyhale was who'll pick TJ and what they do. And what happened is Philip picked TJ and went all over the field with TJ and left lanes, and Barry actually did well on Colin Fennelly. Colin Fennelly didn't score, right? But Cody and is it Owen Cody? I can't think it was. Is it Owen Cody and I can't think it was in the other corner. One of the Mullins did damage because Ballygunner went away from their natural game. So you had a situation where Michael Fennelly was sitting on the edge of the D. Pádraig was going everywhere, but he wasn't getting that ball. And Philip was gone from his home. So I think they're more true now to what's good for them. You know what I mean? So I think there'll be a belief system in terms of sticking to their, and I think they've great mix to it. They're able to mix that long ball into Deise and them as well when they have to. You know what I mean?
I think everyone would understand that being based in Waterford, you probably have seen an awful lot more of Ballygunner than you would of Borris-Ileigh. That's totally understandable. I'm just wondering from a Borris-Ileigh point of view, to get Philip Mahoney away from protecting the full back line, because number one, I think maybe there's a small bit of susceptibility to height and a good hanging ball in on Niall Kenny.
Conor Kenny.
Barry Coughlin is now playing on the wing. You know how assured he is as a full back. That how do you draw Philip Mahoney away from the square and get a few high balls in? Who's Philip Mahoney going to worry about and have to mark tightly as he had to TJ Reid? There's no TJ Reid.
And in our county final, we played Jack Fagan, a very good score getter, on Philip, but he played in a role where he was nearly almost line up on Philip. So his instruction was to be up on his shoulder, and he did reasonably well. Now Philip is a very good player; he can man up with any situation. So for us over the years, he would have marked Conor Lahan, he would have marked TJ Reid, he marked Joe Canning, and he's able to do a man marking job as much as anything else. But for Ballygunner to function, so in terms of not knowing, Borris-Ileigh seemed to stick with the two lively corner forwards in the corner. Young Kenny who I saw playing with Tip in the first round of a league a number of years, got 5 or 6 points against Dublin, I think, in the first round of a league. Very good aerially. So for me, the Borris, I suppose, have a couple of options. They can say to themselves, well, who's the main distributor for Ballygunner? I need to stop at a source here. So do I lie someone in on Philip? And if I do go short, if I go with a JD out there for just as a curveball for 15 minutes and I go with him deep, generally what I've found is when other clubs have said we're going to get Philip out of the D, the deep centre forward has just been ate alive by that pack who absolutely know their job to a T. And Philip has been instructing Paddy Levy or Michael Manny or Pádraig Manny himself. There's a wall of 5 there, lads, and it's supplemented by Tim O'Sullivan coming from the corner as well. And at times what you'll see is Borris get a free 90 yards, next minute Philip's man has been picked, and it's done in so kind of symmetrically that, and it's done in the way I'd imagine that I saw Borris-Ileigh playing a few matches, as I said, up to that Thurles final, and I was interested when Johnny Kelly was involved as well, because I played in an All-Ireland club final against Portumna, and I would have seen hardly 10 yards between McEntee and Dolphin or whoever was centre back for, I can't remember who the centre back, it was Ryan, Michael Ryan, actually tip man. Mihal Ryan, was it? That was a tip man for Portumna. Temple, so don't every team want only 10 yards or 15 yards between their 2, 3, 4 and 5, 6 and 7, and I think we're all striving for that, you know.
Yeah, because it's very frustrating. I don't know how many times you've played centre forward. I'm sure loads of times. Yeah. But like, having played there a few times, when you get lost in those numbers and you're like, there's actually, the other team is so well set up, I've no space if I go that way, I've no space to run into that way. Like, you actually do get lost in the game very, very quickly. So at times you're like, what is the best way to even get over this? Because both teams want their midfield sitting. And if you're the midfield that's the one getting dragged up, it's very hard to win again in that situation.
And I think it's like anything. You nip a few. I see ahead of this. I was saying, so geez, Borris started well against Glen. Like Ballygunner started well. Where will be the focus series? Like, have Ballygunner been led this year? Like in the county final, 1-4 to a point up against us, up against Patrick's Well, up against 6 Mile Bridge, and you know, if from a Borris point of view, we kind of saying to yourself, Jesus, can I put a huge emphasis on the start? Can I put a huge emphasis on getting ahead and going at them earlier on? But you know. And where will that take us then? You know what I mean? And then your mind is free almost, because, Jesus, you know, it's a little bit different. We're cutting off the supply to Deise and Peter Hogan. So for me, the focus area for Johnny and his management team, I'd imagine, will be on the start. You know.
And if you're going to call it, then who are you going for?
I fancy Ballygunner, but I actually fancy just to what I said. I actually fancy Borris-Ileigh to start with, but I fancy Ballygunner to find a way, not even a new way, but maybe a kind of a way that sees them being being behind, or maybe having to dig in a bit more, you know, and are they capable of digging in? 100% are capable of digging in, you know, and that's the key thing about them, because those fellas, I often be talking to people about, even the likes of Barry Coughlin, who would have been the first name I would have, and people say why, and I'm saying because he has it, like fellas, they'll go to war for you, like, and I have no doubt that that's the situation in Borris-Ileigh as well. But these fellas will go to war for each other in Ballygunner, and I expect them to win after perhaps a shaky opening, you know. Yeah,
I just think the assuredness of Ballygunner, like Pádraig Mahoney rarely misses the frees, and especially at the club level. I think Borris-Ileigh are going to have a young lad taking the frees. Kevin Maher is very good on the frees, but it's a huge ask for a lad, 18 years of age, in the Munster final. Cork, you in, I'll tell you a whole lot. Brendan Maher might come up and take the frees as he did in the county final. So I think Borris-Ileigh have the stuff to win this game. They can win it, but there's always the chance that it can, you know, the way it can go nightmarishly wrong. You can lose heavily. I just hope, from a Borris-Ileigh point of view, number one, I hope they win, and number two, if they don't win, that it can be, you know, kind of dying with your boots on.
And another parallel, I would think when Clonelty won it last year, and then the Piercing absolutely railroaded them. And sometimes I'm kind of saying to myself, well, Ballygunner beating the Piercing in the final, and sometimes I know that's a kind of a stupid template in terms of, but then I was saying, hang on, it might be the Ballygunner could be actually peaking towards, you know, a performance. Now what's emanated from the Waterford camp around Waterford is it's going to be a Ballygunner final. So, and that's very hard to escape talk of that as well, you know. And it's just
we won Dublin, we heard it's going to be a cool Ballyhale.
And there you go. And that's so. And the club championship has the ability, kind of, to defy logic. I think you know what I mean? It has the ability to kind of defy logic. But in this case, I'm going to contradict myself completely by saying not Sunday.